My name is Amoboye Odu. I'm the head of SMEs, partnerships and collaborations at Ecobank Nigeria. Nigeria is easily the most populous country in Africa with more than 200 million people. The interesting fact about this is that the median age of our population is at 80, which means we have a young and growing population. But let me bring it back to how that impacts Nigeria as an economy. Now, these indigenes are primarily SMEs in different spaces, in fashion, in creative, in tech, in services, agriculture, and many more. All of these SMEs collectively contribute 45% of GDP in Nigeria. But interestingly, as much as oil and gas contributes in terms of export revenue, 90%, it only contributes 10 to 12% of GDP. The rest of it comes primarily from SMEs, from the services sector, from manufacturing allied, and from agriculture. In total, SMEs contribute about 45% of GDP in Nigeria today. There are myriads of SMEs in Nigeria. We have the creative space, we have fashion, we have tech, we have agriculture, we have services, and many more. Given the values SMEs present in our country and continent, Ecobank Nigeria is positioned to be the leading partner bank to SMEs in Nigeria. We have developed various strategies, various products and services to provide solutions to these SMEs and elevate their pain points and ensure that their businesses become scalable. We're looking to grow local businesses to global standards. In trying to impact as many SMEs as possible with the over 40 million SMEs in Nigeria, we've come to realize the most effective way of doing this is to create a webinar. And we've created this My SME Growth Series, which is a webinar that addresses everything from positioning, branding, enhancing business skills, scalability, dealing with exports, hedging your risk, insurance, cash flow empowerment by using solar power to ensure that our SMEs in Nigeria are able to scale and compete more effectively at the global level. To date, with the webinars we've run, we've able to impact more than 50,000 people and counting. So our SME desk is set up and equipped to provide the right kind of advice to our SMEs, point them in the right direction, and then help them realign their business so that it becomes scalable and are able to compete globally. So one of the other things we do is allow brands become more visible by giving them a platform where they can showcase their offerings to the larger public. So as a bank, we've done +234 to spotlight our young creatives and give them a global audience to play with. We've done Adire, Symphony of Colors, showing how our creative industry can put together ready-to-wear. Incidentally, if you go to some high streets in London today, you'll find Adire outfits in certain stores, which makes us very proud. We've more recently done Ojaoge, our pop-up fashion event, which just shows us that, look, Nigerian creatives, Nigerian fashion industry has a lot of depth and breadth, and we're looking to push that forward. Our SME growth story, our SME development, SME success story is the success of Ecobank, especially Ecobank Nigeria.
At the very beginning, we said Adire is more than fabric. The Adire Lagos experience is more than an event. It's a symphony of colors. It's old friends meeting randomly. It's new friends being made. It's SMEs finding customers. It's a fashion event turned festival. The Adire Lagos experience has brought smiles to the faces of both vendors and customers. With vendors from around Africa to customers from different parts of the world. The rhythm of each day plays out beautifully, paying homage to the hands that wove the first threads, makes the first pot of indigo, starch, and burned the first wax. The beauty of the colors, the uniqueness of the patterns. Adire is truly more than fabric. It's been an amazing 4 days of promoting Adire, SMEs, our culture, and our heritage. 4 days of our vision brought into reality. It's Adire Lagos, brought to you by Ecobank Nigeria. Thank you all for coming, and see you next year. At the very beginning, we said Adire is more than fabric. The Adire Lagos experience is more than an event. It's a symphony of colors. It's old friends meeting randomly. It's new friends being made. It's SMEs finding customers. It's a fashion event turned festival. The Adire Lagos experience has brought smiles to the faces of both vendors and customers. With vendors from around Africa to customers from different parts of the world.
Audience, and so I'm going to be welcoming someone that ran this project with me. Her name is Irene Meneghetti. She is a carpenter, a restorer, and conservator from Paris, and she really is the technical eye behind the project Roots and Resilience. Please come up. I'm also going to welcome with us one of the carpenters that took part in the workshop. His name is Abraham, and his company is called Eager Beaver. And he is a strong eye and a strong hand in carpentry, and we're very, very blessed to have him on stage with us. So I'll just give a brief about the project that we did. And then from there we'll go into the questions and the conversation. So the project, yes, of course. Yeah, we'll play in the background. Yeah, continues. So the project that we did was called Roots and Resilience, and this was about sustainable carpentry. And so we wanted to to educate and inform local carpenters about how to build using traditional wood joinery and traditional methods of carpentry. And we also wanted to educate them further about the species and the wood variations that we have in the country. And so part of it was doing a research section, where we looked at the local timber, also our timber sources, and where we produce. And then also we went to these sites. We went to Ife, we went to the timber forest. We went to Okobaba in Makoko, which is no longer there, as of I think a month ago. And we had the privilege of walking through this sawmill and understanding from source to production. And then we had the 2-week workshop where we shared this knowledge, our research knowledge, with the carpenters. So Irina is gonna tell us a bit more about the workshop.
Is this on? Hi. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for being here and participating with us in this talk. So the workshop was really stemming from a desire to educate people a little bit better about the materials that we use and about the way that we construct. A lot of people are using MDF and HDF and wood derivative products, and we really wanted to bring the focus back to traditional methods, building with indigenous timbers to Nigeria, and tell them why that's important, both for themselves and also for the clients. A lot of people don't know about the toxicity of the products that they use. With all of these synthetic derivative products, there's a huge amount of glues that is used, and these products are actually carcinogenic and it's toxic. So we really wanted to, and the other thing about these materials is that they don't last long. So once you have a little bit of humidity or damage this product, it will deteriorate really quickly, and you have to throw it out, and you can't repair it, and you can't continue with it, and it's just not going to last very long at all. So when you build with timber and you build with joinery as opposed to nails, you're really building something that's going to last generations. And it was really important to talk about why it's important to do that. We also wanted to talk about the choice of different timbers to diversify the timber that people are using, and not just focus on the timbers that everyone knows, such as mahogany or teak, but to encourage people to look at different timbers that are available in this country, which there are many of, that are in a good conservation status, to alleviate the deforestation of particular kinds of timber and move the focus away from that.
Before we go on, I just want to say that the reason we created this project was out of pure frustration. We were really annoyed with the way that our furniture was looking, the way that they weren't lasting long. As an architect, it was really frustrating to have a vision of a piece of furniture or a door and come to see just the frustration of the carpenter as well inside of the door. And so for us, this really was a pure labor of love, and just saying, how can we just build a bit better, but then start practicing care, a more rigorous format such as a workshop.
Yeah, so it was really important to us to have this talk, to talk with everyone as well about the reality of being a carpenter in Nigeria, and why are we producing these pieces of furniture that are built a certain way, don't last very long. What are the different factors that come into play to discourage carpenters from using certain materials, or to not have the time to really take care to build something that's going to last. So we'd like to bring in Abraham to talk with us about this, who has 15 years of experience in the woodworking industry, and to talk with us about his experience as a carpenter. And can you tell us a bit about the reality of carpentry in Nigeria?
Hello. Thank you very much, everyone. For the past 15 years, I've been into woodworking. And woodwork is very interesting for those who deeply know about it. But recently, just like my fellow have said, HDF and MDF have taken over the market, and this makes it for clients to see they disvalue the quality of woodwork. And I think one of the main reasons is time. Most people doesn't have the time, they don't want to exercise patience because woodwork takes time in order for you to get the finishing. Why HDF, MDF, within few days you've gotten your job done. Then another reason is I think source for the wood, the quality, the type of wood you need for the furniture to be made of. Most clients, when you try to educate them on this is the type of wood that will fit in for this, some will tell you, no, this is how I want it. But we as a professional, we as the experts, we know more about this, the kind of wood to use for a particular job. There are some wood that when you use it, with time it will deform. Some, with time, termites will be affected with termites. But as a professional, that is the reason why we study woodworking. It's not just something I want to do, but it's something to make our clients happy. So we are trying to see how woodwork can come back and replace the toxic material being used in the market now. Because most of the things in woodwork is natural, no chemical. And most of the joinery we use, we don't use nail. So it's just a glue and the different type of joints we have. Most times we use dowel in order to make it fit in well. So I will say that for the past years I've been into woodwork, it has been so interesting. But one thing we want to understand is woodwork can never fade away, no matter what. It will continue, no matter the effort people try to bring in another source of material in order to make it to fade away. Woodwork will still stand. I want to encourage everyone to see the value that woodwork has. One beautiful thing about woodwork is you can create many things out of woodwork. That is why I love that as a passion. You can make different things, you can bring out design. And when clients are patient enough for the carpenter to decide the kind of material and the time taken to produce that particular job for them, they will enjoy the work. So we are only encouraging people to see the need in order for them to use more wood than the toxic material in the market.
Thank you, Abraham. Can you tell us a bit about how you learnt to be a woodworker, to be a carpenter? What was the apprenticeship process? Can you tell us about how easy or hard it is to learn your craft and how much time it takes and your beginnings?
Learning carpentry is not an easy task. I won't lie. It's not easy. Though I learned it on the roadside for like 2 years, some months, before I get into technical school, where I studied for 3 years. I purely went to study woodwork for 3 years. So for those periods, it's not funny. But thank God, everything was successful. Here I am today, having passion for that. So it's so interesting.
This was something that we were very curious about. When we worked with carpenters, we were like, where do you train? Is there any sort of formal training? And what we did is we actually had a call for carpenters, and we selected. And we selected 2 women who they tried to get a formal education in carpentry, but then they told us some stories that really shocked us. Maybe you can kind of tell about.
Yeah, this is something that's I studied carpentry in France, and this is something that I also experienced when I did the class that I did. And that's why I chose not to focus my main career on woodworking, because it's very difficult as a woman. You face a lot of discouraging sexism. And one of the women that we had, Toyin, she was telling us that 20 years ago, when she tried to train as an apprentice with an older woodworker, that he specifically gave her the hardest tasks, the most laborious, physically exhausting tasks, so that she would be tired and she would give up. And this is the kind of thing that you have to face really regularly if you want to continue in this profession, and that's why there's so few women in this profession. Also, there's often issues faced with people imagining that you can't carry heavy things, or saying that there's no woman in this place because you're too small, you can't carry heavy weights. So it's really something that you face really regularly. And something that we were trying to talk about during the workshop as well was the importance of taking care of your body. Woodworking can be a very exhausting, physically demanding job. And if you don't carry your body properly, if you don't use the tools that are right for you, you can hurt yourself really easily.
Yeah, it's part of it. And one thing that makes people to run for carpentry is just part of what you just mentioned. People feel that you have to be healthy, you have to be strong. Yeah, you have to be strong. And all works, there's no work you want to do. You have to be strong to be able to do the work. And also, just as you said, using the right tools for the right purpose is very important also. It's part of what we have to learn. And I think more of it, why most people are being scared, I think places where they got to learn the work, the kind of bosses they meet there, the way they handle things, and the way things are being organized. So this makes it more difficult for some people to feel, how will I cope? How am I going to do it? So this makes them to be scared that, no, I can't do this. I have an experience of one of my apprentices, which he felt, this work is too hectic for me. But with time, he was able to cope, guiding him through, helping him to say that it doesn't require you using all your energy. And thanks to technology, that makes it more easier for most of the tools we use now are machine. So you don't need to stress yourself much. So learning it is more easier now, unlike when I was learning. When I was learning, everything is manual. You want to cut, no matter how thick the timber is, you have to use your hands to cut. No matter how rough the wood is, you have to use your hand to plane. But now, we have machines that can cut, that can plane. So all you need to do is just to use your hand to do the finishing. So just as you said, most cases, places that people go to learn, make it more difficult for them to see how easy the work is. Carpentry now is more easier to learn, unlike a few years back. So whoever wants to learn can feel free to engage in it.
That's really the importance of having something like, of course apprenticeships are really important, but that's really the important thing about having like a school or somewhere a bit more formalized, where people will take the time to teach you about your position of working with your body, about really important safety measures like wearing a mask or protecting yourself.
Yes, those are the things they don't teach you outside. They won't teach you outside. But the school I went to, those are part of the things you have to take into consideration. Before you enter your workshop, you must be with your overall, your earplug, that is, we call it PPE, personal protective equipment. So you have to be complete. Without it, you won't be allowed. Your hand glove, because when working on the machine, you have to be very careful. So those are the safety you might not get outside. So we try to inculcate it whenever we have people we are trying to train. Safety is very important in anything we are doing, especially in this woodwork. Like my HOD just said when I was in school, he said if you see a carpenter man that his full hand is complete, that is a full finger is complete, he said the person is an expert. And it takes safety serious. He said why most people's hands, you see the thumb is gone, the middle finger is gone. He said it's because most of them lack safety. And I've seen it. Most times I see people working on machine, they'll be gisting, they'll be talking, so they'll be laughing, while you're working on something that can injure you. So when we don't put safety into consideration, aside from being in the carpentry workshop, it's very dangerous. So woodwork, if you want to really enjoy it and you want everything to go smoothly, you have to put safety first. So these are part of the things that people lack outside. The roadside I went to learn it before I get to school, they didn't teach me about safety. All they after is the work has to be done. So I think those are the things we need to put into consideration.
I think we would like to look a bit more into the relationship between the client and the woodworker.
Yeah, I think as an architect, we have the job of relaying what the client wants, or first convincing the client that this is what they want, and then relaying what the client wants to the carpenter. And there's a really big gap right now where we have an idea of what to build, but we have no idea about the materials. We have no idea how these things come together, and we need to start bridging the gap, doing our part as well as designers, as architects, as well as clients, in having an understanding for the craft. For me, it was really big eye-opener having the workshop, because as an architect, my concern is just, can we build better? And once we had the workshop in our studio, I'm not a carpenter, so I was also someone that was learning from Irene. And I realized that once I was designing the table, a lot of my measurements did not care about the dimensions of wood in the market. So I had my table, and it was a perfect 2 meter and by 1 meter, but there's no wood that's just, that the wood I wanted to use was not even 2 meters, also was in feet. And so I had to make sure that my dimensions were taken into consideration, the wood that was actually on the market. Else, what was going to happen was a complete frustration on my part once the carpenter calls me and says, sorry, it's not going to be 2 meters, it's actually going to be 1.75, I hope that's okay. And then my job also as a client is to get angry and say it's supposed to be 2. So why isn't it 2? And this really creates a toxic relationship between the people who are trying to focus on a craft and the people who are trying to enjoy their craft. And that's just from the architectural point of view. Maybe you can speak about the frustrations, also what clients need to learn in order to work better with carpenters.
Part of the challenges we normally face with clients, as I said earlier, time. And that is the reason why they go for the so-called HDF and MDF. Most times when you give a client, this particular job is to take 2 weeks, they'll be asking you that this job has to be ready in 7 days. You will try your possible best. On the process, they'll still call you, there's an adjustment. You have to try to satisfy the client. So at times, some client will shout on you, this is not what I want to, this is not how I want it to be, this is what I want. No, you have to change it. I had an experience whereby we had an agreement, okay, this is the picture, this is how you want your work to be done, this is how I want it. Getting to the site, he said, no, this is not how she wants it. What happened? On her own, she went to change the design. Coming back to meet me and said, no, this is not what, I was like, this is what you showed me. So those are part of the challenge we have. And if you are not the type that need to exercise patience or that has that patient side, you will fight with a lot of clients. You will fight because the way they will put some kind of situation, the way they will say some kind of thing that even your father cannot tell you, but you have to exercise patience with them. So we try to inculcate this in part of our training so that when we meet with people outside, it won't be, which kind of attitude do you have? So working environment also matters. Most times, part of the challenge we face is we have a bigger work, and maybe the client wants us to come and do it in a particular place, and we failed. Okay, if we do this thing in our workshop, it will make it more easier. They'll say, no, you just have to come. They will not stand and be looking at you the way you are doing it. Some will be telling you, this is how you should do it. No, lose it. This is how it's going to be. So it's kind of frustrating that, this is my profession, let me do my work. But they'll be telling you, no, you have to put it like this. Another experience of mine I have with a client is I went to install a wardrobe for the lady. Finished installing, okay, come and check it, is it okay? He said no, that I should lose it down again. We lose the wardrobe more than 4 times, trying to reinstall, just to make sure she is satisfied. My other colleagues was like, no, what kind of thing is this? I said, no, calm down, calm down. Customers are always right. You need to exercise patience. At the end of the day, she was happy, I was happy. But the time taken, the challenge, the effort we put in order to make her to satisfy is not easy. Because we have time to do other things, but she has frustrated us in order to make sure that she is satisfied. So many like that make it more difficult for most carpenters. That is why you had a situation whereby a carpenter collected a job and he didn't finish it. Those are part of the challenges. Some are not buoyant to stand and face it to the core. Some will say, I can't face this woman because of the words coming out of her mouth. So a lot of challenges, just to mention a few. These are just part of the things we as a carpenter are always facing.
I think one of the big issues that is that you face as well is the payment, the cost of your work. I think there seems to be a real lack of appreciation for the time and effort that goes into what you create, and people don't seem to understand that what you're creating now comes from the 15 years of experience that you've gathered, and you need to be paid for that. So can you tell us a little bit about maybe a little bit about that, and about sometimes the issues that you have with the price of your work, the value that people have for your work?
Most times, payment also affects. But like what I do is, I always had an agreement with my client. Okay, this is what you want. This is the price. We start the job. I collect 80% before I start, in order to make the work fast. I collect 80%. If you can't pay me 80%, at least pay me 70. If I collect 70, before I complete delivering the job, you have to pay me another 10 or 15. So that is how I work. So I've been using that method, and it has been helping me a lot. To the extent, most of my clients pay off all their money. So they will just tell me, Abraham, I know you can do this. I know you won't run away with my money. So issue of maybe money with clients, yes, I have some that I didn't get my balance, which we are still working, some we don't work again, but I don't allow that to kill the passion I have for the work. So I still continue to do the work. Most times when I sit down and calculate, my money that is outside, those who are owing me, most times when we think about those things, it kills the joy you have for that work. But when you look at it that, okay, let me continue. You will still have, I don't do the work because I just want to. I do it because I love it. And that is why I'm still in it. So if I'm to look at the money that, okay, this person didn't pay me, this person didn't pay me, Mr. B2 is owing me, so how am I sure that Mr. C is not going to owe me? I won't continue with the work. And that is why many people today are lacking behind. So I don't allow that to distract me. I'm always focused, no matter what the situation is.
I think there's also, there's that aspect of it where we talk about the carpenter needs to be paid fairly. There's another aspect where we have kind of a distorted idea of value today. For example, if we see a t-shirt that costs $3, we'll buy it, which is kind of absurd because just the cost of cotton itself, how exactly did that t-shirt end up costing $3? The cost of fuel that it took to bring that t-shirt to the store, you cannot tell me that everything added up was even less than $3, and then there's a profit on top of that. So when we think about the value of our materials today, it's really distorted where we might see a piece of furniture, hardwood, real wood, and it might cost something like $200,000. We're like, I'm not paying for that. Well, it's because we have an idea that a table can cost something like $50K, $20K, at the end of the day, when you think about the cost of transporting that piece of table to your doorstep, that's where you start. That's the starting point of understanding the cost behind why this table costs the way it does. There's a big competition between MDF, HDF, and hardwood because it's quicker, it's cheaper, it's mass-produced, and it's competing heavily with our hardwood and our resources. And this is why we're also seeing a big decline in the craftsmanship. I understand that we often try to stay within the budget, but also when we start looking at our materials as a resource, as opposed to a commodity, then I think we can start moving the needle in how we perceive the value of our furniture. There's also, there's one more layer, which is the time layer that we often don't think about, because in an Instagram world, it's really hard to think about time as something that goes beyond even you. But when we think about our grandparents' furniture that has been passed on, and we see furniture pieces that are living inside of our houses today, we realize that, your grandfather might have paid, a kobo for this piece of furniture, whereas we're now haggling prices. But it's like, if you buy something that's worth 200,000 and it's made of good craftsmanship and it's made of good wood, it's going to outlive you. When you think about the 200,000, you will actually wonder why it is 200,000 and why it doesn't have a longer value. So as designers, as architects, as clients as well, we need to start shifting from the idea that this piece of furniture is a commodity to just kind of make my space look good for a while, and start understanding that this was a tree, like a living tree that lived well before you. It had a whole life before you were even thought of. It was cut down and it was joined to make what's in front of you. That story in itself that you now own, like have the privilege to own, is what you're paying for, and it's also what you're passing down. I think I really commend the carpenters for trying to, for even having the guts to place value on the fridge. I would be like, it's 2.5 million, it's a toothpick, it's worth it. But I think it takes a lot of courage to understand the market and to still keep working with hardwood.
Yeah, there is a secret most people don't understand about Woodwork and HDF. When you look at the cost of, maybe you want to do like an office table, for example, the cost you spend on using HDF and the cost you spend on using wood, they are almost the same thing. Like the time taken we are talking about, that is why most people go for HDF, because they'll look at it, okay, using HDF to make an office table, within 2 days, you'll get the office table. But using wood, it will take you like maybe a week or two. So that time for people to wait for that 1 week or 2 weeks, they said no, go for the faster one. And the lifespan of wood is quite different from the lifespan of HDF. Wood can take years. For some of us here that still have some maybe table, chairs that our fathers, even our forefathers, our grandfathers still use. They will be telling us the history. You were not born when I have this chair. For some of us, imagine if it is HDF or MDF. Will they be telling you, you even see the table or chair? No. So that is a mistake most people do make. That is why most times I explain to my client, if you want wood, this is the time period it will take. But this is a lifespan it will give you, and you will enjoy it. And it doesn't have any toxic in it. And most times, they will say, okay, no problem, let's do it halfway. But I will tell them, if you are using HDF, this is what it's going to give you. And I've noticed using those who use wood for kitchen, it lasts longer than those who use HDF. If you use a very good hardwood, for example, use like Oridudu to do your kitchen, and use HDF, the lifespan of Oridudu that it will give to you, your children will still meet that kitchen there. But if you use HDF, believe me, under 2 years, you have to renovate that kitchen. For some of us that have kitchen that may be made of maybe MDF or HDF. So the time taken That is what discourages many people. But we are trying to encourage them to make use of wood. Wood will give you what you want, and it will last more.
Wait,
Yeah.
And your children might spray paint your coffee table pink. That's not your concern. Your children's children can sand that off and still use the table. Sure. That's the value of the material.
Yeah, I think there's like a short-sightedness of people these days of, we want everything quick, we want everything to be, we want to change things again in the next 5 years, but the way that our world is deteriorating and the way that we're using everything, this is something that has to change in our mentality. You can't just see for the next 6 months. We have to be looking much, much further about how we and the objects around us and how our earth is going to be used and how we interact with it. And we really need to respect ourselves and our objects and our resources way, way more. Should we ask for questions?
Yes,
Yeah.
please. I just want to mention one more thing that I thought was, in my opinion, my biggest learning. And it was really trying to understand what is the issue in the industry from the source all the way to the product. And so we had the privilege of going to Ife to go to the timber market. We didn't enter the timber forest. We didn't enter the forest, but we were on the outside of it. And we were wondering, why is it that we have such unfitting quality also of hardwood? And we realized that there's a lot of deforestation happening. And this is completely unregulated because people just pay a side fee and they get in, they cut the wood. The people who don't have the license to cut and are just felling trees, they're felling a lot of young, immature trees, and these trees are really susceptible to rot. That by the time they bring those hardwood to the market, what they tell the sawmill is that they're not allowed to pick and choose. So the people at the sawmill just have to buy the load. What they get is, 50% good and 50% just horrible. Now, as a carpenter, when you get to the sawmill, guess what they tell you? You're not allowed to pick and choose. I didn't get to pick and choose, so you don't get to pick and choose. And this starts as a trickle-down effect, so that when you get your piece of table and you see a bunch of filling in it, you start yelling at your carpenter. Really, that voice should go all the way to the forest and also go all the way to our governing structure of our resources. There needs to be now, we need to start kind of sewing the needle through each and every gap so that we stop the frustration at the root as opposed to, yelling at the end product. And it makes me, really, I want to encourage everyone to question the source of the frustration before you get frustrated. Just hold it in for a second and ask yourself, do I really know the source of where this comes from?
Let me just add to what you just said.
Please
about
do.
What you just said is part of the challenge we carpenters do have. Because you go to the market, you want to buy a particular hardwood, they will tell you you can't. So what I do most times is, when they supply those who are selling, I will go there, select the ones I want, stock it. So at least when I stock for some months, from there I will know the one that is going to deform. I will know the one that will be affected with termites. Then I will know the one that is going to bring out dust. So that has helped a lot also. Unlike you buying the fresh one, trying to use it, you won't know the one that is going to deform. So I think, just as you said, at early stage, they cut down the trees, and that has really affected the woodwork. And that is part of the reason why most people are now feeling discouraged not using wood. They felt it would time to eat it, and it will decay, or it will be bringing out powder. But like what I used to do, since I have it, I will just collect the money, pick from the one I have, buy it, then when it comes again, I stock back. So that has really helped me a lot. And I believe some of us who are into interior here or into carpentry, we can use that same principle, and that will help us to get the better wood we need. Most times we travel out of Lagos to get wood. Maybe we need a particular wood and we can't find it here. We move out of Lagos, sometimes Sapele, Ife, just as he said, then other states where the woods have been sourced. So most times we go to the farmer ourselves, tell them, okay, I want to buy a whole tree. They will cut it to the size you want, and that will give us the size, the kind of wood we want, and we'll stack it. When the client needs it, then we'll pick it from there. So that will help us to know that, okay, this quality of wood I'm using is okay. I guarantee that this will not have any defects.
He's a real one, guys. He's a real one. He understands the stuff, and it's beautiful.
All right, thank you so much. Please, a round of applause for them one more time. All right, so we'll take questions now. If you have any questions, show of hands, please. We have one. Fantastic. One question, yeah? Okay, fantastic. Thank you. Remember your name, your question. Please stand so that the camera can see you. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Jeff Takolaole. I'll start with thanking the panelists for the great work you guys are doing. I just want to, more like adding my voice and equally asking some questions. It's indeed a lot of work. I'm a civil engineer, and of course, you know, we use wood for our roof, carcass, and trusses. And the challenge is what we are equally experiencing. To get very good wood is very difficult. We go as far as Ore, Undo, and all of that. But at the same time, talking about woodwork, because you see, we have a very big issue on our hands. The HDF and MDF and whatever it is we are using, their quality is even going down. The HDF you buy 5, 6, 7 years ago is not what you are getting today. So which is really very terrible. Now, how do we make, or what are the efforts you guys are making to make woodwork attractive, you know, to the younger ones? Because you see, sometimes, like you guys have identified, is indeed a lot of work. I did wood technology as part of my course while I was in school, and woodwork is something I love so much. I have some pieces in my house. I do woodwork personally at home. I have my workbench, I have my miter saw, my router, and all of that. But you see, like you rightly said, if you learn woodwork by the roadside, you won't want to go there. But you see, today we have a lot of tools. I wish the guys from Bosch and the likes are here to see how they can add value to the ecosystem. We are far behind in this part of the world. If you look at some of these guys that are doing woodwork in Italy and some other parts of the world, it's very attractive. You see them using a lot of modern tools and modern technology. And in this part of the world, it's quite expensive for a roadside carpenter or furniture maker to afford these tools. Majority of the people out there are even going cordless. But how many of our artisans can afford cordless tools that will make it easy for them to go to sites and, you know, actually turn wood and use wood? So what are the efforts people like you that are trying to play in that sector, in that industry? Because we don't have a choice. We actually just have to do something. Because even the MDF and HDF are nothing to write home about anymore. And the wood, we just have to do something. So what are you guys trying to do to make sure we just get it right?
Yeah. Thank you so much for your comments and questions. I think in terms of what we can do to make it more attractive is, what I've heard is that people are really discouraged from taking vocational jobs. From when you're in high school, people really discourage you as a child or as a teenager to follow that path because they say you won't make money. And the thing that we really thought about during this whole process is that it is a career that it's really hard to make money in, but like Abraham said, this is something that you love, and to encourage people to do these jobs because they love it and they will enjoy it for their whole life, that's something that you really need to tell teenagers. And I think during this class, during this technology class that you have in school, it's really important to encourage teenagers to see this as a viable career option because it's something that they're going to be doing for their whole life and they'll continue to love. It's not something that, you know, when you're like 10 years down the path, you're like, I don't really like it anymore, it's not interesting. That's wrong. You're learning your whole life and it's going to constantly evolve with you and be something that you're passionate about. So it's really about encouraging that passion when kids are interested in this in high school and telling them to continue with it. And I think the access to materials, obviously this is a huge issue. Machines can be very expensive, but you don't need good machines to produce good work. If you know how to use your first machine, which is your body is your first tool. If you know how to use that properly, you can create perfect work. You don't need the tools. It will take longer, but once you perfect that, then you'll make the money and you'll be able to get access to tools. I think in terms of what we're going to be doing to encourage that, it's about creating partnerships with these big companies like Bosch, Makita, whatever, and trying to get access to that, and then encourage them to give discounts to the people participating in our workshop, for example, or create incentive for those big companies to give access to people who don't have so much money. But the first thing is to use your tool, your body, and know how to work that as best possible.
In the video, I think you'll notice that there is a mix of hand tools as well as electric tools. This was extremely intentional. We want to make sure that everything that we did with the electric tools, we could do with the hand tools. So even though you saw the electric planer, there's still the hand planer. Also, there's the chisels. And I think when I was watching them, this was the most challenging part, was actually using some of these really precise hand tools. And it was also like the most beautiful part because, I saw like really fine craftsmanship, and that's that labor of love that we keep talking about. We had a conversation before this, after the workshop, and we're going around in circles like, oh man, how do we encourage? And it was really just like, we need to tell the story about why we love doing what we do. A lot of times we show people the success of what we do, which is like, we made this table, it was amazing, but we don't talk about why. And the why is always because I just love doing it. And we need to, for me, that's why craftsmanship is beautiful, especially architecturally. If I can have, even my doorknob just be crafted, and someone holds that and they say, I can't believe this girl did this, because she loves craftsmanship. And once people see you loving something, it's contagious enough. It's more than enough to encourage people, because that's truly what we're looking for in all of our careers, is that we love the thing that we're doing. So really, a labor of love needs to be the story that we keep telling.
Also, I find that what we saw during the workshop was that people often rely too much on the machines, and then they forget how to use their hands. So you can make a lot of mistakes with the machine. Doesn't mean that just because you have a machine, you'll make something perfect. That's really not true at all. And I think if you substitute your own capacity, your own skills with your hands, with a machine, then you'll actually do really sloppy work, because you forget that you need precision as well with your eyes and your brain. You need to really be precise with what you do. And that comes from first, like I said, like knowing your body and knowing your hand skills, and then using a machine to aid you to do the big, hard labor. But the machine is not going to mean that you do perfect work.
Like what you said, that most roadside carpenters find it difficult to get tools. I would say no. If they want to purchase the machine, they can. If they want to, they can. Because where I learned roadside, they don't have any machine. Everything we do is manual. Even the school I went to is manual. One thing they used to tell us is, using machine might make you feel lazy at times. So they will ask us to do some certain things using manual tools. But now that issue of design, maybe you want a particular curve, or you want a pattern on the wood, that is where the issue of machine now comes in. Because there are some patterns you might not be able to use hand to bring out. Like me now, if a client gives me a job, most of the tools I have today is based on the description of the kind of design the client gave to me. So when the client said, okay, I want this, I won't tell the client, no, I can't do it. All I need to do is just for me to go and search for the kind of machine that will bring out that design, go to the market, buy it, and do the work. So that is why most of the machine, and that's why I said, the roadside people, not that they can't afford it. They can, if they want to. Like years back, when the HDF and MDF comes in, people were using hand to tight screw. But since the HDF and MDF comes in, I've never for one day used hand to tight screw. Why? Because I've determined in myself that when people that bring in this material manufacture something that will make this material for you to be more easier for you to use, so why not stressing myself? So not that they can't afford the machine, but most of them, well, I don't know. The reason might be known to them, but they can afford it. So let's not look at it that, okay, maybe it's stressful. Back in those days, our forefathers, what did they use to bring out all this design we are seeing? Was there a machine then? No. So we don't want to look at it that because there is no machine, we cannot achieve what we want. We can achieve without machine. Most works I do it without machine, and I still achieve what I want. So I just want us to put that at the back of our mind that not only because it's necessary for us to have machine before we can achieve some certain things. Without machine, we can still achieve what we want to achieve. Where machine comes in is when we are looking at a particular design. That's where machine comes in.
Please a round of applause for him. I just enjoy your passion when you speak about this thing. You can tell he cares very, very deeply about the craft. All right, so final question. Very quickly, straight to the point. All right, so please stand and introduce yourself as well. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Lawrence. I'm a visual artist and architect. So my question is, it's two things, but too short. In terms of the greening the ecosystem and deforestation, I think you mentioned something about some of the woods are they're so young and they just cut them down. Based on your research, was there like any other thing that contributes to this deforestation? And for you, the work you do, have you done a lot of work with reclaimed woods and stuff like that? Are there special considerations you take to kind of play your part to greening the ecosystem in this small way?
Just quickly, so the deforestation it's because of demand. It's a certain demand. So what we're doing is we don't have much diverse knowledge about the variations of timber we have. We have the basic, which is like mahogany and iroko. And so when we keep using this, we keep making it really popular, and then everyone keeps using the same type of wood. And what happens is when people go into the forest, they're just looking for that because they know that's what's hot in the market. Obviously, there's an issue with people letting in loggers that do not have license, but what they're looking for is what is selling on the market. If there's a wood that has a name that they've never heard in the market, they're not going to look for it. So what we need to do is try and create diversity so that we're not just looking for one species and cutting them all off, but we have a variety of species and then the rate spreads. So we have a deforestation problem because we're not replanting. We're not replanting, we're just felling, but we're not replanting. We need to first create a variety at the rates at which we're cutting, but then also we need to afforest hand in hand. These two things start to actually make sense for the demand and the consumption. Right now, it's not that everyone is demanding hardwood, they're not, but they're demanding a very specific type of hardwood.
Thank you very much. Okay. Yeah, we had it was a small question. He said I can just, explain the question. Essentially what he said was, what do you guys think about the world where we have so many talented local artisans, but finishing is usually imported from overseas? That's it? Okay, yeah. So what do you guys have to say about that? There are a lot of very talented people in country, but a lot of the finishing is done by foreign talent. Yes.
That's it. Yes, and this is just the dying of interest in craftsmanship here. Like he said, I think also the audience said, there's a lot of young people who are just not interested in this, and so they're looking elsewhere. Whereas a lot of foreigners see a very big opportunity here because there actually is a demand, and this demand has moved rather than being from all levels of income that's demanding it. There's only maybe like higher income, and this network is directly related to a lot of foreign workers. And so this just stays in a little bubble where these are the only people who are enjoying and benefiting from this. Whereas we need to start taking it down into every single aspect of making. We need to normalize it as opposed to make it a luxury.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for them, please. Guys, I'm sure we can do better. Please, a round of applause for them. Thank you very much. All right, so they'll take photos now. That's the end of the session. Thank you so much. That was such a great time. It's so great to learn that that we have a lot of talented and very committed craftspeople here in Nigeria. So thank you so much. Fantastic. Eve Abraham, and she who shall not be named. Absolutely stunning. Thank you so much. All right. And we're very hopeful that from this conversation and the workshop, we'll get a new batch of very talented craftspeople ready to take the world by storm. So thank you so much. Please, a round of applause for them one more time. Thank you very much. All right, that's it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for coming to the Ecobank Design and Build Expo 2024. It has been an absolutely fantastic couple of days. This is the final, or that was the final knowledge sharing session. So if you're watching us online, thank you so much. You've had a great time. We hope you've had a fantastic time as well. Until we come your way next year, thank you so much. Take care and bye-bye.
Well, my name is Ade Laoye. I'm the founding partner of Ecobank Architects. We've just completed one of our, I'd say, memorable projects, the National Theatre refurbishment and renovation. It's been quite good because it shows you what Nigerians can do. You know, most of our buildings that are dilapidated are normally demolished or not properly restored, but it shows you that a Nigerian team has been able to restore a national icon. So it shows you the importance of architecture. And I think architecture sometimes, you don't understand that architecture is beyond the buildings. Architecture is about the spaces around buildings as well, just not the building. And we call that urban architecture. And it affects our daily life. We're not aware of that. With bad planning, bad architectural planning, you'll have
to make a difference.